IVM.
Welcome to Absolutely Right. I'm your host Aditi Surana. Our guest today is Radhakrishnan Chakyat. Radha is a renowned commercial photographer with more than 30 years of experience and a founder of an online photography learning platform called Pixel Viilage. Stories inspire, stories transform. I was moved to hear a story of an enthusiastic boy from a small village in Kerala who became a successful professional with his sheer dedication and hard work. He has worked with some of the most eminent people in the industry. Here are some takeaways from today's episode. If you are a creative professional, then you will learn a lot from Radha's resilience. In case you're considering reinventing yourself, he shares his inspiring story of how he pioneered to become a photography YouTuber. And if you're a student of life like me, then you will learn how a mere intent of continuously growing can keep a person moving forward and taking actions with utmost humility. Thank you so much for being here. You all make this show possible. I feel I'm so lucky to speak with people like Radha, who's so committed to learn, improve, and make a difference. Let's take a short break and jump right into the conversation.
Hey everybody, welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money and Intel. We appreciate their support. It's been a really fun week, guys. We've had some great episodes on your old favorites. Cyrus Says, Advertising is Dead, Edges and Sledges, Football Shitball had a really fun episode as well. Definitely do check it out. I'm sure you're going to enjoy yourselves. And with that, let's continue with the show.
Hi everyone. So finally Radha is in the studios with me and we're going to jump in and speak about his career, what exactly he did, and why is he so passionate about photography, not only clicking pictures, but teaching people. And, I feel many a times experts that I speak with, they're really, really amazing with what they do. But when it comes to taking the newcomers along and learning from them is not the easiest thing for most experts. So Radha, you have picked up this very, very difficult and challenging path in a way. Why, first of all, why photography over all other really, really safe careers? And second, why teaching photography?
Okay. So why photography? I honestly don't really know why photography, but if I can relate or I can tell you a possible reason why photography is because I'm from a small village, the central part of Kerala,
okay,
which is a very art-oriented place. It was the base of the Cochin royal family, and because of the royal family's patronage, a lot of art and sports and stuff got a lot of encouragement. And my grandfather was an artist. My grandfather's elder brother was an artist. So my grandfather was a classical dancer in the sense he used to dance something called Ottam Tullal. Ottam Tullal is like a classical art form in Kerala, which is probably not as popular as Kathakali, but it is a very popular art, and it is very local, very, very Kerala. I mean, you will not find it anywhere else in the world. His elder brother was a painter. He used to paint portraits and landscapes, and he used to do murals. He's done murals in the temples in our village. These frescoes, huge, in a place called Triponitura, which is like about 6 kilometers east of Ernakulam.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where I'm from, and that's the royal family used to live around a temple there, and my grandfather's elder brother did the fresco, the sailing, he's painted the Dashavataram and all that. It's all gone. Now you will find enamel paint and not those classical, painting. He even lost his eyesight because he used to lie on his back on platforms and paint it, So he was that. His sister was a musician, and she used to be the principal of a fine art college. So maybe all that had an indirect effect on you as an individual. I wanted to learn painting.
Okay.
I even managed to catch hold of a teacher and brought him home, introduced him, said, I'd like to learn paintings. I remember that. And we were probably financially not in a position to afford a teacher. It's way back in the mid 70s, and it was not very easy. So I very clearly remember that my mother did not even open the door, and the teacher was standing outside the window, and I am inside, and I am begging my mother to open the door, and so mother did not even come into the room, and she said, no. I mean, I was not living with my father, so it was difficult for us, and my uncles used to support us. So, for her to make that possible, all that is, I mean, my grandfather, who's the folk artist, I mean, the classical dance artist, he used to drive a car. He used to be a driver in a car, and so that was the only, so with all that, we could not really afford a formal art education. But my mother, whenever she comes back from a movie, she will not only watch the movie, she will make sure that she narrates it to everyone.
Oh.
So the neighbors.
She was an actress in her own way.
Oh, she narrates it so well that I've seen neighbors and cousin sisters are all crying. She will impart that entire emotion that she went through to the audience. And,
so when did camera happen?
So maybe it is then I started visualizing. I'm just assuming that may be a reason that she would narrate, and I'll start visualizing those scenes because I can't go to the movies. Where I think that's where it all started. Then I started asking her, who's the cinematographer? I never inquire who's a director. I will ask her, who's the cinematographer? I don't know why, but that's how it used to be. And even now, she makes it a point whenever she watches a movie to particularly note down the cinematographer's name and come and tell me that so-and-so is the cinematographer.
Okay.
And so luck by chance, I happened to... so when I finished my 10th, my grandmother, we used to live with my grandfather and grandmother. Grandfather passed away and grandmother said, now you need to go look for a job. So I was sent to Hyderabad to be with my eldest uncle, looking for a job. I got some odd jobs as a typist. So my first job was a typist. I used to type very well. I can type very fast.
Even now?
Very well. I can type really fast.
And do you write very fast, or do you write?
So writing has reduced. So, off late I've been writing. Otherwise, writing to a great extent is kind of diminished. But I type. I can go. So I started learning typewriting when I was in 8th standard because all my uncles went. See, so there is a thing about Malayalis in Mumbai. I don't know if you are aware, most of the South Indians and Malayalis in particular used to be a very good secretaries to big officers. And in those days, there was no dictation stuff. All used to be shorthand. There was a form called shorthand.
I remember people learning it. So people...
all my uncles were uncles, they all came to Mumbai with 10th, typewriting and shorthand, and they all started doing very well. They were in multinational companies, very close to the boss men. To my grandparents, that was the way to go. With that, I came to Hyderabad, and I started working as a typist in an automobile retailing store. I think it was 300 rupees a month. So that's how I started, and but somehow my uncle thought that that's not what I should be doing. So I went and learned. Television. Repairing. There used to be a company called Datamatics. They are there even now.
Yeah.
And once I finished, that class, my uncle asked me to go back to Kerala and pursue, studies further, because he thought that I would be wasting my time. He thought I could do things in a better way. So on the way back, my father was a customs officer. He was a very high-ranking customs officer. He was a preventive officer. So on the way back to Kerala, he gave me a compact camera.
That was your first camera ever?
Yeah, that's my first camera ever, a Canon hot shot, like a pick up, aim and shoot camera. So I came back and I started going to college again in 84. I did pretty well for the first 2 years, but the photography bug bit me, and I started doing photography. I would go. So Fort Cochin and Mattancherry was the tourist hotspots in near Ernakulam. Okay. So I would go there, and my biggest pastime was to interact with the tourists.
Okay.
Take pictures with them, look at their cameras and oogle, and things like that. Take pictures of landscape. And my friends started giving me roles, asking me to shoot pictures of their family weddings.
Family members, right.
Family members. And I started doing that, and people started liking it, and people started offering me small money. Okay. And there I started, thinking that this probably is
what you want to do.
Possible profession, one. I also used to, so it was 1984, Los Angeles Olympics, and that was the time microwave started happening. Microwave television relay. The DD metro stations came up everywhere.
Right.
And everyone started buying televisions and installing. So you have to install an antenna and a booster.
I remember that.
So I used to do that. Yeah, so I used to install it.
So you knew how to fix
So I am the go-to guy in our village. So I used to make about a decent bit of money. I used to make about $2,000-3,000 every month installing antennas, and I would get a small commission from the antenna manufacturer. So photography and this installation, and some people even will take me to the TV showroom to buy, help them buy a TV. Now, looking back, I am probably doing something very similar in YouTube. I am helping people.
That's true.
Yeah. So there are some divine connection somewhere, and some reason why you're doing what you're doing. So
when we speak about, sorry,
yeah.
But
no, please go ahead.
About your career as a photographer, and so last week we did this episode on creativity, and I spoke with people about how to step into creativity. Now, what you're talking about, your lifespan there, and also for those who are starting new in any creative field, what is your insight into it? Like what one should do to claim that space, or, because otherwise you're not encouraged to be creative. And listen, until you don't have some family member who is in creative field already, you're not necessarily encouraged to do that. So how can one, what questions one should ask? What should one do?
So the term creative, according to me, is a little misleading in the sense people think that unless you're a singer, if you're not art inclined, you're not creative. So you tend to call everyone who's art inclined as creative. A bank officer or a teacher or a lift operator or a taxi driver is not creative, but I think even they can be creative.
I'm smiling because that was the first point I began that episode on. I said, this is not true. And being artistic is not being creative necessarily. And anybody and everybody can be creative. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. Even asking your son to learn and coaxing him to somehow pick up that book and make him write that, exercise that evening also can be a creative, your persuasion can be creative. You can scold him, you can coax him, you can convince him, you can motivate him. Various different ways to, or you can bribe him, to do that. So you can be creative, but yes, people think that someone who's got a camera or someone who can sing. Or I still feel singing and painting is really creative. I know you need to have some past previous life connection to
Good
be as a good
karma.
singer. Yeah. Or for a painter to be a painter and a singer. I think anyone can learn to be a good photographer these days. I don't think it's very difficult. But somehow people feel that anyone who's got a camera has got, two horns and he's like one, special species and stuff. Not any longer, but that's how it used to be.
My father was an art director, and I grew up around that culture where he used to process his own films, and I saw how fascinated others used to be knowing that he knows how to handle camera and he can do all of this. I have seen other people being really, really impressed. So now I can totally relate to what you're saying.
So I feel that once creativity is in a form of a wanting to do something. And if that want becomes, you brim with that thing of want, I think you will find your first connection.
So the desire to learn something is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. And if it is strong enough, okay, that goes with anything. I mean, I go to an extent and say, if you want to be a supari wala, supari wala in the sense the one kill for money.
Oh, that's supari wala. I thought you were referring to the pan.
No, not that. So because that's a job, right? I mean, that's a profession people get into.
I'm reminded of Kill Bill, totally.
So if you really want to do that, if you really want to be, the supari killer, and if you harbor that thought long enough in your mind, next time you come out of your the late show from theater and you go to that thelawala for that omelette and pav, he will tell you, "Kya milaun kya? Oh, कौन है देखा? मालूम है? कौन है? वो हमारा वो कंपनी का आदमी है, मिला के दे दूं क्या?" So that's how you get your first connection, and that's exactly how I got my connection. Seriously, that's exactly how I got my connection. So one thing led to another, and fortunately I had amazing friends. People's house, I was not socially or economically, I can't even think of going to their houses. But they welcomed you, allowed you to sit with them, be a part of that community. They very, very, very happily shared their understanding, knowledge, everything, and which that gave you the courage to do. So I wanted to come to Mumbai, because Mumbai was the only place. It was Bombay then, not Mumbai still. So I came to Bombay because a well-wisher, my neighbor, my friend's father, who was a doctor, very affluent man, Dr. Tampuran. He took me from Kerala as a photographer for his nephew's wedding in Bombay. Yeah.
So Radha, when we speak about your journey as a photographer and 30 years of career, and in the introduction I mentioned that as a commercial photographer and that journey that began with trying every single thing possible and looking for every small connection possible. So what were the moments where you questioned and you doubted whether you should do this profession or not? Because I'm sure the going wasn't the smoothest thing that time.
Not at all. I fortunately had a very good association with Chinmaya Mission, and I used to attend a lot of spiritual discourses, especially Gita discourses. And throughout, probably that had actually conditioned my head that, look, if you want to do something, you need to wear a blinkers and go out and do it, whether you're going to get a result today, tomorrow, or the day after. It's going to come to you. Mm-hmm. So I had that conviction. So though I had lots of, what's the right word? Temptations to switch profession or do something else or try. I even got a job in the Middle East where most Malayalis work.
Of course.
The proverbial Gulf, we say.
Yes.
Gulf. Yeah. So,
yes. You didn't go to Gulf and you decided to
No, I didn't go to Gulf. I didn't go to Gulf. I had an option. I had an offer too. So I said no. I mean, if I have to do what I want, I was very clear that commercial photography is what I wanted to do. So that's why I dropped out. I mean, in fact, I dropped out on the final year of my chemistry. Fortunately, my parents, my mother, my father had a difference of opinion because he was not in the family. It was not really a problem. My mother reluctantly agreed, and I just took I came for that wedding, which my Dr. Thampuran took me to, and I stayed on. I had lots of friends in our village who allowed me to photograph them, and I had made a small portfolio using which I went around, and Rafiq Elias, Rafiq Syed, lots of great people. Wow. It's all divine connection. I can spend another 40 minutes to explain to you how I got into Rafiq Studios and how I got into Rafiq Elias Studios.
That's amazing. So all the people that you thought were your role models, here you were showing them your work. And
to tell you, those connections through which I reached these places, I have not met most of them again. Just met those people for that 2-3 occasions. That's it. They just came in like a divine, God sent people, made those connections and disappeared.
So literally they showed you the way. Oh my God, that's so amazing. I also feel like when you are committed to what you want to do, so many times like these alignments happen, right? Like I have had so many moments and graceful people helping throughout my career and the journey.
Absolutely.
So let's get to the part of the conversation that you were curious about and I am excited about is your handwriting. So Radha, I'm going to ask you that question that most of our guests wish that I would ask, but also feel slightly uncomfortable about. What are your questions for me based on your handwriting? What can I ask?
Since I am committed to what I am doing now, though I am within me highly impatient, because I think we have everything that is needed to go to start what we actually wanted to start, and there is a delay. Some are, I mean, various reasons, things which are beyond actually my control. So I'm not exactly anxious. I think we are heading in the right direction. Probably I am still not on, I'm still on first gear or second gear, and I have not shifted gears, to the top gears. But I wanted to know how, do I have the, can my handwriting tell me whether I am focused enough? Or am I creative enough to do what I'm doing? You already know what I'm doing. So
creative enough. Oh my God. Like after everything that we have known about you, are you creative enough? I don't think handwriting should even try to talk about that. But going back to your previous question, are you disciplined enough? Are you committed enough? Are you focused enough? Now, I'm going to break this question and speak about different aspects of it.
Sure.
Now, as we have slight insight into your story, I would say it may sound uncanny how it played out, but even as a child, even as a youngster, even as a teenager, you always looked at your life as a very, very long-term plan. You never looked at it as a short-term, immediate, gratified idea. You said, okay, if I want to achieve something, the plans that you had were really, really humongous. You had no clue how you're going to achieve it. You never knew whether you are capable or incapable to do that. But when you thought about your future, you thought about it in a long-term manner. Now, most of the time, I meet people, and in younger generation, it happens a lot. The idea, everything that they desired from childhood has happened immediately because parents were more able, they were really, really interested, or they kept giving things that the kid wanted. So the idea of instant manifestation or gratification became our way of, looking at the world. In your case, you always looked at it as a long term. So you might have told yourself things like, one day when things are proper, I will. So you really, really held on to ideas for a very, very long time. That I feel is, are you focused? I can't say you're fully focused because you keep jumping from one thing to another because of your enthusiasm and you really get excited about multiple things. So not fully focused in the moment, but you're very, very clear about where you want to go. And it's a long-term idea. So even if things do not fall in place immediately, you are on the path. You keep finding ways to achieve that path. You keep finding ways to move forward and get where you thought you wanted to get. Whether people agree with you or not, most of the time you are on that commitment to move forward, which I feel is one of the main success secrets. If I have to decode your personality and find out what was that one thing, that ability to imagine and the ability to be so clear about where you want to go. Now, coming back to impatience, people with long-term ideas are also highly impatient because what they can see, most of the time people around them cannot see it. So they're like, isn't it obvious? You take these 3 steps and then we will move on with the plan. For other people, that is not obvious. So what you require to do most of the time, and if you're listening to this conversation and you are that long-term thinker, this is applicable to you too. Make sure that you break your ideas into smaller parts for others to understand it. So what you have to really, really practice is explaining them why they must look at the overall idea. And in spite of that, they won't understand it. They won't be on the same page.
It's an everyday situation.
And it will be everyday situation because I feel this is what makes leaders different than the followers. So what you can see from a bird eye view, if you try to explain it to the monkey who's sitting on the tree or any other animal who is on the ground, they might not be able to look at it because what you can see is not available. We get frustrated thinking that other people are not understanding. The very moment you understand that they cannot understand because the other person is not seeing what I can see, then definitely your perspective and your frustration would be much lesser. Which is right now, it starts with impatience and it gets to frustration. You feel as if you're banging your head against the wall, which is not true, but it feels like that in the moment. So over to you.
Sure. So what else can you to say looking at my looking at the letters or things that I need to take care or things which are very obvious there? What is that you can tell me?
So I'm going to speak about 2-3 areas which are very, very significant to your personality. First thing that comes to my mind is you do not fear making mistakes, which is very interesting because most of the time creative people suffer perfectionism. It's not that you don't care for getting it right, but at the same time, you're not limited by that perfect idea. I think as a professional, you're a very hands-on person. You say, okay, you get into a situation, you say, what all can I do here? What all can I create from whatever is available? And I think that is also applicable to you as a father, as a friend. You would always be in that quest of, okay, we can't go to the right for whatever reason. Can we go to the left? Can we move forward? Can we go backward?
This is exactly why my wife is upset with me, because one day I will be talking about doing something in the hills, and the next day I'll talk about doing something on the beach. I said, look, how can you talk about two diabolically opposite kind of things,
Because it doesn't matter to you where exactly it occurs. But you know the connection and you know exactly what you want to experience with it. And experiencing that matters to you. So professionally, I do not know where all you have taken risks, but I can look at your writing and totally talk about and describe that you have been a risk taker without having resources to support what you are talking about. You said something, you sold people ideas and they got excited about it. And somehow things happened, not only with those divine connections, but even in general, when you knew that I have no clue how I'm going to deliver it, but you believe that if I set my mind to it, and if I'm very, very clear, I would figure my way out. And which I feel is very crucial for people to keep in mind at this point in time.
Thank you. I mean, that gives me great courage. I mean, that's something which I believe. And I've believed, very, very strongly that I keep on telling people that, look, I am okay. I know that I am not the cheapest photographer, but I also know that I am not the most expensive photographer. Right. And I'll give you what you want. And one thing I can tell you that don't pay me if you don't like my images. I even go to an extent and tell them that one. Mm-hmm. Second, I said, look, I can wait for my Mercedes-Benz. I'm okay. My Mercedes will come and I'm okay to wait. And I also keep telling people that if I want to go from a point A to point B, or a group of people set out to go from point A to point B, some will take a flight, some will take a car, some will decide to walk. Sometimes somebody will get a longer route. Sometimes you get misguided by Google. But the fact is that if you stay on that path, you will reach there one day or the other. The speed may be different. So I don't usually compare myself with other people, though I get a little kind of sad when, like you said, people don't really understand the concept when you explain something to people. And then I start having doubts on myself. I said, did I just say something, or it actually made sense? Am I wrong? Then I realized that nobody was either completely right or completely wrong at any time. Just went ahead and did something. Many things succeed, many things happened. Sometimes you are ahead of a time in terms of idea. In fact, all this live webinars, I've been talking to manufacturers for the last 3 years.
I just wanted to speak about Pixel Viilage at this point in time, that you began teaching people photography online, and today, within 2 or 3 years, you've become like the most prominent face in India. Because I was speaking to other photographers, they're like, yeah, of course I know Radha because he's been doing this work, and the brands are acknowledging it, and you're representing some camera brands and some microphone brands as an Indian.
No, in fact, I don't represent. There are lots of offers for me to represent a certain brand, but I think if you want to be in the field of education, you should not get. You can have sponsors supporting you. Corporate support is fine, but I can't be seen as a brand man. If I become a brand man, then two things will happen. Second, because people are so brand loyal, either I will alienate people or people will alienate Pixel Viilage. So we don't really have any brand association. We are very brand agnostic when it comes to handling brands, but all brands support us. Some brands have not yet seen the possibility and how effective it is to reach a product to people. And plus, we also don't sell products. We don't, though the term used in the internet world is that you are an influencer. I don't try to influence people. I make a neutral statement. I try to, I don't try to say this camera or this phone is a good phone or a bad phone. Because I don't have any right to judge someone. I mean, Nikon and Canon are 100-year-old companies.
Right.
How can I possibly say that, that feature is bad, or, I'm not even 100 years. I mean, I keep saying this. I'm not even 100 days old in photography. So I am, because we're so clear. We don't compare products. We don't do these things called shootouts in our brand. So we try to give a neutral point of view. We say these are very interesting features. This is how it functions. And these are the things probably I would like to see some improvement in. That's it. And we leave it to the audience to make that decision. Hence, we're not brand people. We get support from brand for sure. Otherwise, how can I've not shot a commercial campaign in the last 3.5 years, which means I've not got paid for doing photography in the last 3 years. Now, everyone is consuming the content that we are putting out, including the evening 2-hour talk that we are doing.
Right.
How can we possibly do that? I mean, you can sit on that side and very, very, very comfortably either criticize or enjoy it or do whatever you feel like. You're open to do that. I have no problem. I'm gotten used to it. But without support, how will I do it?
Right, of course. And also, it's a very hard path to become a content creator. People do not realize it, but it requires attention and commitment to do that on a daily basis. That too.
King of Gwalior is not my godfather, so I cannot continue. So I'm, and it's very simple that somebody needs to support. What as a if the influencer, my job is to be as neutral as possible and not misguide people, which I'm very, very particular. Sorry, we got digressed a bit from the point
Radha,
that we were discussing.
I think there's one point that I really wanted to talk about, and you just underlined it with your sentences. One of the things that I find a prominent trait in your writing is immense amount of learnability. Now, one of the traits in handwriting, we speak about it. If your letter T, small letter T that we write, if it is shorter in height than the letter H, that means you are way more open to learn from things. You do not take things for granted. You do not, throw things which feel uncomfortable or unfamiliar. You look at it and you keep asking yourself, what can I learn here? What can I shift here? What are the important aspects of it? And that matters to you. So to find things that you can learn from, to find things that you can constantly evolve yourself into is your favorite.
Absolutely. I really, really enjoy everything, in any situation like that. I really, really enjoy that.
And that is very, very important, because most of the time people learn something and then they do it for some time and they start believing that they have arrived or they got wherever they wanted to. And after that, people stop learning. So keeping your learning curve on is so crucial, is so important. And it might not be the exact profession. Like to become a content creator, you had different learning curves. To reach out to these people, you had different learning curves, but you stayed on the process, which I feel is a love for questioning and love for learning new things that I was referring to.
I have to add something to it. In Pixel Viilage website, I don't teach anything because I feel that I'm not, I don't know, I don't think I know enough to teach somebody. On YouTube, it's very different. You are explaining a feature or a particular, a small thing like white balance or color temperature or how to do this or how to do that or how the camera behaves or a menu or things like that or a tip or a trick. But when it comes to actual teaching, you need to be a teacher. You need to know much more. So that's precisely why I said, okay, I am okay being an evangelist. I can go around, drum about, Pixel Viilage, but I really want good teachers to teach photography. So I lined up a series
very
of...
humble on your part.
Very seriously. I don't think I know enough to teach people. I can very convincingly answer or guide people. That's teaching is a little different. Like yesterday we had P.V. Subramaniam. He's an amazing teacher, and it was very evident from the conversation. There was Prasanna Venkatesh, and there was so many people who were very good teachers, and they are so focused in teaching. Now, I need to be also worried about running the business. I need to, be talking to people and what next. I need to worry about how the Insta campaign is going to go this evening and things like that, So I have kind of very, very consciously kept myself away from that thing of teaching. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
going a little more spiritual. There is this. I used to read a lot about Ramana Maharshi, and there was one time he said, I have nothing to teach, because I don't know enough to teach people. So in a humble way, I very strongly believe that I don't have anything to teach. What I believed was that whatever little I know it because a lot of people, lot of people shared their photography understanding with me. They allowed me to use their camera, allowed me to use their space to shoot, lights to use, and they also helped me. They helped me on phone. I mean, there are so many cinematographers who have helped me on phone, to solving problems. So that gives me no right to hold on to that information and not share with people.
But I visited Ramana Maharshi's ashram, and I remember this story and reading about it, where when he said, I don't have anything to teach, people just couldn't stop themselves from visiting him and learning from him, and they just wanted to be around him. I think exactly that is happening with you at this point in time. You said, I have nothing to teach, and people really want to learn anything that you can give them and teach them and enlighten them.
The only difference is that in Ramana Maharshi's presence, in his silence, the disciples used to get the answers. Here, they're not going to solve their problems in Pixel Village if they don't listen to our mentors.
Coming back to handwriting, there's one aspect of your writing which kind of something I look at as a slightly concerned area, which I would like you to think about and pay attention to.
Sure.
So, in spite of having that amount of clarity, when you get to execution, you think like a scientist. You are very, very logical in your approach, in the way you think and the way you decode the process. But in that journey, you also become slightly aggressive, where you do not realize that you're being aggressive, or you want to get to a point with so much of energy that other people around you kind of do not realize how to deal with the situation. You become like sometimes your presence becomes like a floodgate that opens up, and people do get washed away or washed out because they do not know. They don't have their strong grounding. So a stronger person working with you, dealing with you, it's easier for you to deal with it because they disagree clearly. They set their standards, or they put their foot down. But if the person is not that capable, it's difficult. And you being very logical, you can, I wouldn't say dominate, but overpower the conversation unknowingly. You won't be aware of it. That in your mind.
I have noticed that. Yeah, I have noticed that it's true. And I even used to ask them, why are you not replying? I mean, am I scaring you? अरे यार वो नहीं है तो नहीं बोलो ना. So I can be completely wrong. So I have experienced that. Very true. Thank you for saying that. I am.
I know that you
I am. I may be logical. I also, to an extreme, I also try to play very safe. I also try to be very safe in the sense I don't gamble. I don't speculate. In the sense, I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay if it's a little slow, that's fine. But I'm not ready to speculate on things. Speculate on ideas are different, but speculate with overstretching yourself, I usually avoid doing.
I wouldn't say that. I think risk-taking or experimenting runs in every walk of life. But your love is to create systems, probably, which kind of drives this. So if you do something once, you want to improve it by doing it the second time, but then seeing the gaps and then creating a foolproof method, maybe, to create the same result again and again. So when people don't understand why do you have these preferences, which come from immense amount of investigation, research, by interviewing other people, so your reasoning is very, very strong of every single step that you take, which the other person who's unaware of wouldn't understand. And then if they don't follow it, that becomes the aggressive energy. Or because when you speak about why one must do it, you bring all that knowledge and all that research into it, which the new person is not aware of, and they probably just keep it. So my favorite example to make this point, so imagine somebody who goes on a hunt to find a specific plate, which was an ancient thing, which was discovered by someone, and this person really goes and spends a lot of time and energy to get that plate. And then when he hands over it to his child, who's unaware of how important the plate is, the child just puts it anyhow. And the father freaks out, not because of the plate, but all the journey and effort that father has gone through, because the plate is important. But same thing happens with your ideas at times, that people don't understand how important these ideas are, and you can't convey it in the moment. So there's a friction there.
It has happened about 4 times so far in my professional life. Once early in the 90s, when music videos were getting popular. I wanted to get into music videos, and I had the understanding to shoot and edit and do all that. Didn't take it seriously enough. I stayed. I left behind. In '94, I had this opportunity to work, to get into cinematography full time. That's the only regret that I have, if at all, if I have. I miss cinematography. I think I would have become a reasonably good cinematographer. That's the only regret that I have. Well, we can still make a movie again anyway. And so I'm not entirely dissatisfied, but yes. Then in 2006, I put together the first HD editing studio in Mumbai, in a small scale. It used to be on tapes and high digital beta and all that, but all on computer. I even made the place with the help of an investor, but I needed more money. It did not happen, and it fizzled out. But I wanted to do it in one way or no other way. Then I got into filmmaking. I also did filmmaking, so I made many films. Sachin Tendulkar and celebrity-filled movies when celebrities were becoming big in advertisements. But I couldn't continue because somebody who was with me thought. He took all the material and he claimed that it is his. So I didn't confront him. I let it go. So I stopped making films. So I never made films after that. I said, okay, that's it. If that's the way. So then I completely got into still photography. I was always a still photographer. But then I got in touch with, I came in touch with Nikon. Nikon made me an ambassador. Well, that probably was a turning point. And Nikon started sending me to various places to kind of talk about photography and all that. And so then you start interacting with photographers, and they tell you that how difficult it is to get the right information, right learning, understanding, and all that. And so then that planted the seed in my head, about photography education. And I also knew that you can't continue to stay as a successful commercial photographer forever, because everyone has a certain, life. So I thought it was also a very, very sensible professional choice, not only a moral choice or a spiritual choice. It also made a very professional, choice to kind of make a small tweak and fine tuning. And I also started talking about it to people. Lots of people, guided me. So then I started the YouTube channel. I was not supposed to be the presenter or the host of the show. I had even gotten people to do that. They decided they probably must be thinking about it now, but we had a front man for our YouTube channel. He was a friend, but did not it did not materialize. So slowly things got naturally
woven together.
Yeah, woven together. And I realized that there are many times I was thinking of ideas which was slightly ahead of times. I'm not saying I am smart, but that's how it happened so far. I've been talking about these importance of online classes reaching masses. Now, when I speak, yesterday there was students from Nigeria, from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from Saudi Arabia, Ireland, North Carolina,
Wow.
Perth. I am actually not surprised, because this is how the medium works. And I've been telling all the corporates, saying that, look, you improve their education, and it's not me. You are the one who's going to be benefited, because if someone gets educated and if he decides to buy one extra lens, I don't get any money.
Right.
You're the one who's getting money. So it's actually technically or morally, it's your responsibility to impart more education. Sure. Correct? So that the overall photography understanding of the community improves, and they gain more confidence, and they start asking for a better fees, because they can now handle the equipment better, they can take better images, their craft and the art both improves, and who benefits? You benefit.
I remember when we did the anxiety talk on your Pixel Viilage platform, that time also the response was really good, and the questions were really, really interesting. And I remember we talking after that, we don't know, we were not prepared for so many questions, but people were really, really, really keen. And that shows how
your show is one of the largest watched show in Pixel Viilage. If you look at the count now, it's one of the largest watched. So we kept it in YouTube, and we also earned a couple of dollars from that.
I'm so happy. So this week we are speaking a lot around, and I think I'm going to do that for next 1 year maybe, because I'm highly committed to this purpose of people not giving into their anxiety and not giving into depression, making sure that they make their claims back to their life. And
I have my low day. I definitely have my low days.
And that is my question. That is my question to you. Tell us what, for somebody who's starting photography as a career or any, initial journeys, it's important that their role models and influencers in this sense talk about that things were broken or things are broken maybe, and you are committed to make it work. It's as an illusion when we look at somebody who has figured it out, we start believing that this is how life should be, all figured out. But it is never like that. Under the actual story, you always have the missing pieces, and only the person who's going through the journey is aware of it. So if you have to share one of such stories, what would that be?
So I keep getting it. It comes like a wave at times, and it usually happens. I've heard people who are very intelligent people talking about it as early morning 3:00 gremlins. It kind of, so you wake up in the morning because you're anxious, you're kind of thinking too much, and you wake up in the middle of the night, and then you can't sleep again. And these gremlins start playing in your head, saying that, look, what a fool are you? What are you doing? There are so many other things that you can do, which will bring you money much more. You will be much safer doing that way. And why are you doing it? This is a bullshit idea. And there are so many more capable people who are going to be doing this, and you are nobody. And, then that morning becomes, really, you start sulking, and you start feeling very low. You become very irritable. You get angry very fast. Your temper is, you're always, you can flare up any moment.
Yeah.
And it has happened. And if you ask my wife, she will tell you, she's there right behind me. She is.
At the perfect moment.
Bindu, you are not invisible, okay? You are in the live broadcast. Okay. So there she is, and she's actually on the receiving end of the, on that anxiety. But she's been holding on, and she said, "But why are you getting upset?" And she becomes oversensitive about it. So, but people like you, conversation that we had on that day on anxiety, whatever little spiritual education that we had in the past, and lots of conversation, good conversation that I had with people, all kind of tell you that have taught me that, the moment, bigger you are, bigger is your problem. So if you think that Mukesh Ambani is now very happy because he got $13 billion in his kitty, not really. He's going to be 1 billion times more anxious about what he's, going to be doing. So you won't be, and you're going to be constantly being judged by people. The thing is, you need to worry about yourself and your intentions. So I have started believing in my intention and not about what I am doing, how people are going to perceive me. I am convinced that what I am doing is what is needed today, a need of the hour. If I wanted to make money, I know half a dozen other professions I know personally, including installing antennas. That can get me money, So because of which I started looking at, though I go through it, and during that day, what I do is I go lie down. I'm sorry. And look at it objectively, and I distance myself from that problem. And it is tough, it is difficult. All the wrong thoughts will go through your head, including the possibility of you falling sick and, you running out of all resources and, what you do if that happens. Everything that passed through, then I allow it to pass through.
That's such a beautiful thought you said, Radha, because most of the time being the witness to these waves is very, very difficult, and we start engaging with them. So I always tell people that when we are in that situation, when we are feeling low, you have to tell yourself that today is my day where my leg is broken. So everything that is happening, I'm on my bed or I'm in my chair and I'm looking at it. I'm not going to participate in the drama because today my leg is broken. So the very moment we start acknowledging that I woke up on a wrong foot maybe, and I'm going to give myself some time to feel all this turmoil, and then probably look at it when I don't feel that affected. I believe it's a practiced behavior, isn't it? It took years to come to a point where you can disengage.
It was not a conscious practice, but like I said, lots of interaction with various people who are much more knowledgeable than me. And I have no reason to mistrust them. So I just follow what they said. And then I realized that it is working, It's working. A simple thing. I am convinced. I believe that life is not complicated. We actually complicate life. If you just follow the 10 commandments, the world can be heaven. This earth will be heaven. Those 10 commandments, thou shalt not steal, love your neighbor and all that. And
any other rule that our listeners would believe in, like coming up with like that small idea that your intent of how you would lead life and then going about it is what you're referring to?
No, life in general. You look at the miseries, or you look at the grief, or the greed, or whatever that you see around you. It's all made. It was, I think it was not really supposed to be like that. And life actually is way simpler than actually it is.
I totally agree with you. So beautiful.
Yeah, and all you have to do is to feel. Just look at it in a very simple way. It is not. People try to split hair. Find meanings that doesn't exist, and then they complicate life. Well, if I talk about the baker in a town who was the only baker in a town. And he used to bake the bread for the entire not a town, a village, and suddenly somebody realized that he's the only baker. So let's start one, and sell at a cheaper price, So then you suddenly saw 10 bakers coming one after the other, trying to underprice and outsell the other guy. And at the end of the day, the first guy thought he packed up, very early because he said, look, I can't run it. Subsequently, everyone started packing up because they started selling bread at cheaper than the raw material price, and the world started expecting it, But when the last man died, the village also died because there was nobody baking bread for them anymore, So that's the kind of world we are in now, where everyone is trying to outsmart the other guy, in the process killing themselves. There is enough. There is enough for everyone. There is enough and more for everyone. Some of these people who amass wealth in the name of wealth building can't even have a chai with sugar in it. I mean, what are you making all these things for? So if you can live a life and take the world with you, so that's, I very strongly believe that loga samasta sukhino bhavantu. You can't be happy alone. You will be happy collectively. So I've started believing that intent, and that's what we do.
And I think that's what you do in every action and every course and every video that you make. Thank you so much, Radha, for doing what you do, and second, for being on Absolutely Right today. This is so beautiful. I'm so happy we could do this.
No, thank you for those insights, those feedback on the letter. I didn't know that your handwriting could say so much. If there is anything that I need to be extra careful about, you can tell me that also.
I think I've spoken about that one point. I would say the second area, if at all, that know that you are an introvert. You speak very well and you have this, large personality when it comes to communication. But as a person, you're an introvert. So you'll always have a spiritual bent of mind, which you're aware of. But also you will recharge your mind and your body by spending time alone. So when you see yourself being irritable, observe that, is it because my battery is not charged? Did I not spend time by myself in last 24 hours or 48 hours? If that happens, we don't realize that these are the signals. But observe that, knowing that you are a well-spoken introvert is a great feedback to know. I think that there's one more thing that you can be watchful of, because nobody can make out that you're one, and other people would never see you in that light because you speak so well. And that is most of, that is our understanding of introvert and extrovert. So I think that would be the next thing to keep in mind.
Sure. Thank you very much, Aditi, for this.
Thank you. Lovely talking to you, Radha.
Same here. Happy to be on your show. Thank you very much.
I don't think Radha realized how inspiring his story is. When you constantly keep finding ways to enhance your life, every success and every failure becomes a part of the whole journey. Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Absolutely Right. I'm keen to know, what were your takeaways from this conversation with Radha? When was the last time you felt committed to hold on to your vision no matter what? What action will you be taking today to improve something in your life? Do share your experience and send me your questions on my Instagram handle @Aditi Surana. This week I spoke with the hosts of IVM's show Paperback by Open Library Project. The episode is out today, so check it out and learn more about my favorite books on it. If you like this podcast, then don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on IVM Network. You can listen to us on IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcasts.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. You might listen to this episode later, but this week we lost Sushant Singh Rajput to depression. It had been a tough time for all of us in many, many ways. But losing a person like him, who was very, very positive to most people, was a big loss. Depression is real, and it's high time that we speak about it and address all the issues around it. Please tell me, what are your questions and challenges when it comes to depression? What would you like to know? We will cover those questions and try and answer in the next episode on Friday. Let's connect on Friday. Till then, happy writing.
बेटा, did you know 79% of all scientists in NASA are Indian only?
देखो, इंडिया में टैक्स सिर्फ मिडिल क्लास भरती है. Everyone is just enjoying free यार.
आजकल के youngsters are only interested in partying and enjoying. उनको देश की पड़ी ही नहीं है.
बेटा, तुम बस शादी कर लो, उसके बाद तो you can enjoy life like anything.
I will tell you what this country needs. This country needs 15 years of dictatorship. That is the only way to become a superpower. See the Chinese, how much they've progressed.
सुनो, तुमने ये WhatsApp forward देखा?
So what's common between all of these statements?
They're all absolutely rubbish.
Fake WhatsApp forwards that spread like wildfire.
And statements that defy any logic.
We are here to debunk them all.
Way of family WhatsApp groups, worst nightmare. Where what happens when you read a book.
Basically, we're just a bunch of guys who want to cut through the bullshit of everyone saying this, how it won't be true.
So that the next time someone confidently squeezes out some WhatsApp or Twitter BS, you can look them dead in the eye and go, Uncle, please sit.
So join me, Joel.
And me, Tushar.
Every Mondays for a fresh new episode of Uncle, Please Sit.
Namaskar, dear Bandhu. My name is Ashish Vidyarthi. These are truly challenging times, and in these times, we need hope. Do take time to listen to my podcast, Begin the Journey. Available on IVM Podcasts, website, app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, there is hope because there's one life and we are alive.